The phone buzzed on my nightstand, slicing through the silence of my apartment like a sharp whisper. I reached for it, my fingers brushing the silk sheets, heart thumping faster than I could explain. The caller ID blinked. Grandma Evelyn. My breath caught. Chloe? Chloe, don't go home. Go somewhere. Her voice trembled, cracked like old porcelain. My chest tightened, a sudden chill crawling up my spine. Grandma, why? I asked, my voice barely above a whisper, half afraid, half incredulous. I glanced around my apartment, all calm modernity, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the city lights, warm wood floors reflecting the faint glow of my desk lamp, the scent of lavender lingering from my diffuser. Everything felt surreal, as if her voice had pulled me out of my controlled, polished life and into some fragile, urgent reality. I had built this life, careful, independent, measured. But in her panic, I could feel the threads of the past tugging, reminding me of things I'd buried. That's when I remembered. Grandma Evelyn always knew when something was wrong before anyone else did. Her intuition had saved me more times than I could count. I swallowed hard, grabbing my coat from the chair, the soft cashmere slipping through my fingers. Should I call Mom first? My thoughts collided, part caution, part instinct. But the tremor in her voice left no room for hesitation. She wasn't just worried. She was warning me. I slid my phone into my pocket, laced my sneakers, and glanced out the window at the city streets glowing beneath the moon. Somewhere safe. I had to move now. I remembered the first time I'd felt truly invisible in my own family. I was 19, freshly out of college, brimming with hope and ideas, standing in the living room of our family home in suburban Connecticut. My parents sat across from me, their expressions unreadable but heavy with judgment. You're making a mistake, my father said, voice calm but edged with authority. That career path won't get you anywhere. You need stability, security, not some dream you'll regret. My mother nodded, but her eyes flickered with a softness she didn't dare show out loud. I felt the familiar sting of being dismissed, of having my ambitions folded neatly into someone else's idea of what I should be. My hands shook slightly as I gripped the mug of coffee I didn't even want to drink. The warmth was supposed to soothe me, but it only highlighted how hollow the room felt. Grandma Evelyn had always been my anchor. I recalled the small silver locket she'd given me on my 18th birthday, engraved with the words, "Trust yourself, always." I had touched it now, under the table, feeling the cool metal against my skin, as if her quiet strength were whispering through my veins. "You're stronger than you know, Chloe," she had said, visiting that day. "One day, you'll look back and see how far your own courage will take you." That moment crystallized everything. The heated words, the judgment, the suffocating expectations. I could feel it pressing on my chest, but Grandma's locket was a reminder that I wasn't alone. I knew then I had a choice: bow to their vision of me or forge my own path, no matter how uncertain it seemed. So I did the only thing that felt like freedom. I packed my things, left behind the familiar hallways echoing with criticism and disappointment, and took the first steps toward a life I would claim as my own. Every step was shaky, every decision terrifying, but Grandma's voice, her unwavering faith, pushed me forward. Even now, years later, the memory lingered like a heartbeat beneath my skin. And when I heard her voice shaking over the phone tonight, warning me in the dead of night, I realized something. The past wasn't done with me yet. I moved to Boston with nothing but a backpack, a small suitcase, and Grandma Evelyn's silver locket nestled against my heart. The city was alive, humming with energy I had never felt in our quiet Connecticut suburb. The streets smelled of roasted coffee, wet asphalt after sudden rain, and the faint tang of opportunity, if you had the courage to chase it. I found a tiny studio apartment above a bakery, its windows fogged with every early morning. I worked odd jobs at first, barista shifts, freelance writing, even tutoring, anything to keep the lights on while I figured out how to step into my own life. Every evening, I would sit at the small desk by the window, the city lights reflected in my notebooks, sketching ideas and dreams I didn't dare share with anyone back home. Then I met Eleanor Hayes, a seasoned editor at a boutique publishing firm, who saw something in me that even I was still learning to trust. "You have a voice," she said during our first meeting, "and it deserves to be heard." Her mentorship became my lifeline. She pushed me harder than anyone else, teaching me discipline, patience, and how to turn my chaotic ideas into work that mattered. The nights were long. I would pore over manuscripts, emails, and proposals until my eyes burned, the hum of my laptop and the distant city sirens my only companions. Doubt was a constant visitor. I questioned every decision. Was I wasting my time? Was this dream selfish? But each small win became proof of my resilience. My first published article, a modest but poignant piece, earned praise and confidence I had never known. My first client, a tiny startup willing to trust a novice, paid me enough to cover the next month's rent, and that small financial independence tasted sweeter than any security I had ever been promised at home. I kept all this hidden. Social media showed a curated life, the occasional coffee photo, a book I liked, a city's skyline shot. I posted nothing of the sleepless nights, the anxiety that gnawed at me, or the modest beginnings of a life I was building brick by brick. I had learned early that family approval was conditional, and their judgment could suffocate the air from my lungs if I let them in too soon. And so, silently, deliberately, I crafted a new version of myself, stronger, smarter, independent, but unseen by those who once doubted me. Chloe Morgan wasn't just surviving anymore. She was quietly thriving, a life forged from courage, persistence, and the whispering faith of Grandma Evelyn's locket against my chest. Yet, as I stood in my apartment tonight, hearing the urgency in Grandma's midnight voice, I realized that the life I had built in secrecy was about to intersect with the past in a way I hadn't anticipated. I felt my pulse quicken. Something was coming, something I would have to face. The knock at my apartment door echoed like a warning I couldn't ignore. I had been expecting it, or rather, I had been dreading it. Standing on the threshold were my parents, their expressions a mixture of exhaustion and subtle judgment, and my cousin, who always seemed to carry my father's disapproval as naturally as breathing. They had come expecting the Chloe of their memories, the quiet, unsure girl, the one they believed would never stand on her own. I led them into my living room, letting them take in the space slowly, deliberately. High ceilings opened above them, adorned with soft, ambient lighting. Expensive abstract art lined the walls, carefully chosen pieces I had purchased with my first real earnings. A polished oak desk stood in the corner, stacked with my projects and awards, each one a silent testament to late nights and hard-fought battles. My apartment smelled faintly of jasmine, with the distant aroma of fresh coffee wafting from the kitchen, a small indulgence I allowed myself. They paused near the center of the room, their eyes scanning, registering everything. My mother's lips parted slightly, disbelief written across her face. My father's jaw tightened, and my cousin's brows knitted together, a mixture of confusion and envy flashing in his eyes. I walked slowly toward the window, hands clasped lightly, letting the city lights spill over me. "This is my home," I said, voice calm but firm, letting each word settle in the space around us. "Everything you see, every choice I've made, I made alone. Every success, every step forward, it's mine. And it's real." Their gazes followed me, scanning the shelves, the framed accolades, the subtle signs of a life meticulously crafted from scratch. I could feel the shift in the air, the weight of their expectations cracking under the reality of what I had built. "My first published article," I said, pointing to a neatly framed copy on the wall. "The one you said I'd never succeed at." My lips curved slightly, not in malice, but in quiet triumph. "The small freelance work that you dismissed? That was my foundation. Every opportunity after that came from the courage to take the first step, even when you didn't believe I could." My father swallowed hard, a rare vulnerability crossing his features. My mother's eyes shimmered with a mixture of pride and guilt. I let the silence linger, watching their reactions like a sculptor observing the final reveal of her work. Then I turned fully to face them. I am not the girl you thought I was. I am stronger, smarter, and independent. And while I've chosen to live my life on my own terms, I have not forgotten the lessons I learned from family, the good, the bad, and the complicated. But I will not allow anyone to undermine my worth again. Their stunned expressions said everything. They had come expecting a struggle, a plea for help, a shadow of the Chloe Morgan they knew. Instead, they were met with a woman who had quietly, deliberately, and relentlessly shaped her own destiny. The room was thick with disbelief, shame, and awe, an unspoken acknowledgement of the gap between the Chloe they remembered and the woman standing before them. And in that moment, I realized something. The power to define myself, to demand respect, had never been in their hands. It had always been mine. The air in the room felt different now, charged with a mix of tension and anticipation. I had their attention, and more importantly, I had the power to shape how this reunion would move forward. I stood tall, letting my presence fill the space, my grandmother's silver locket pressed lightly against my chest as a reminder of the strength that had guided me here. I want to be clear, I began, my voice calm but unwavering. I care about all of you, but caring doesn't mean repeating the same mistakes we've lived through for years. If you want to be part of my life, things have to change. My father's jaw clenched, a silent protest, but I didn't pause. First, you need to respect my independence. No more undermining decisions or dismissing ideas before hearing them out. You'll listen, not dictate. I glanced at my mother, whose eyes flickered with guilt. You've spent years worrying about me in ways that often felt controlling. From now on, I need trust, not micromanagement. Support me. Don't question every choice I make. My cousin shifted uncomfortably, sensing the weight of my words. And you, I said, meeting his gaze, you need to take responsibility for your own path. Stop comparing yourself to others and start building the life you want. The excuses end now. Each condition I laid out was not punishment. It was an invitation to grow, to heal, and to reclaim the lives we had all been navigating with old wounds. I wasn't trying to hurt anyone. I was setting boundaries, creating space for respect and accountability. I paused, letting my words settle. I will help where I can, but on my terms. I've spent too many years fighting to define myself, and I won't compromise that progress. Every action you take from here forward will determine how involved you can be in my life. There was a subtle shift, a recognition that these weren't just demands, but an opportunity for transformation. My father's shoulders relaxed slightly, a flicker of understanding passing over his face. My mother nodded faintly, a tentative promise in her expression. Even my cousin straightened, a spark of determination breaking through the defensiveness in his eyes. I let silence stretch for a moment, the kind that carries weight and reflection. Change isn't instant, I added softly. It's deliberate, consistent, and sometimes uncomfortable. But I believe it's possible for all of us. As I spoke, I felt the full measure of the power I had earned, not through wealth alone, but through resilience, vision, and unshakable self-respect. This was my life, my boundaries, my rules. And for the first time, my family was seeing me not as a daughter or niece they could control, but as a woman who had reclaimed herself completely. The air felt lighter, charged with possibility. I wasn't just standing up for myself. I was offering a blueprint for all of us to heal. And in that moment, I realized the true gift of power. It wasn't in revenge, but in guiding others to rise alongside you, if they chose to. Weeks passed, and subtle changes began to ripple through my family. My father, once rigid and unyielding, started calling me for advice on matters I never thought he'd trust me with. My mother, cautious yet tender, began to step back from controlling instincts, offering support without judgment. Even my cousin found a new focus, exploring projects and dreams he had ignored for too long. I watched these transformations quietly, a gentle pride blooming within me. It wasn't about power anymore, or even proving them wrong. It was about witnessing growth, patience, and understanding take root where old patterns had dominated for decades. Change wasn't perfect, but it was real. And that was enough. One evening, I sat on my balcony overlooking the city, the cool breeze brushing against my skin. The silver locket Grandma Evelyn had given me shimmered softly in the fading sunlight. I held it in my hand, remembering her voice. Trust yourself, always. I had done that. I had trusted myself when doubt screamed from every corner of my life. And now, standing in the fullness of my own independence, I realized that trust had shaped not only me, but those around me, too. I thought about the long nights of struggle, the tiny apartment, the unpaid bills, the fear that I wasn't enough. I remembered the first time Eleanor Hayes had believed in me when no one else did. I remembered Grandma's unwavering guidance, the quiet courage she instilled in me, and the many moments I had chosen to keep moving forward, step by step, dream by dream. I smiled, a soft, serene smile that carried the weight of everything I had endured and achieved. This journey hadn't been easy, and it hadn't been simple, but it had been mine. And for the first time in a long while, I felt the freedom of knowing that I was enough, not because anyone said so, but because I had earned it, lived it, and embraced it fully. I whispered to the night, my voice steady, my heart unshaken. I am my own safe place. I am my own strength, and I am free. The city lights glittered below, like tiny sparks of hope reflecting back at me. I knew there would be challenges ahead. Life rarely offered perfection, but I had something far more powerful than that: clarity, resilience, and the unshakable knowledge that I could face anything. And in that clarity, I finally understood what Grandma had been trying to tell me that midnight. The world could shake, people could falter, but if I trusted myself, I would always find somewhere safe, somewhere strong, somewhere true.